The next morning when I woke up, I felt that the first thing that I should do is to work out a strategy and a schedule for digging potatoes and catching fish. One of my main concerns was that I did not have any more salt. Without salt, I couldn't catch fish and preserve them. So, I would factor in the time it took me to get the salt to figure out the best schedule for digging potatoes and catching fish. I did some thinking about my walk across the potato field, my climb over the mountains, and my walk around the ocean to my salt pond. My walking time from the potato cellar to the salt pond had been about 4 hours one way. Assuming that I could just reach down and scoop up salt as fast as I needed to, a round trip from the potato cellar to the salt pond would take about 8 hours. A round trip to the salt pond would use about 8 hours of daylight, so that pretty much consumes the entire day. On my initial trip to the salt pond, I had carried plenty of potatoes to eat, but I was lucky and found the big tuna fish in the strange body of water. So, I didn't eat the potatoes on that trip and I brought them all back. Reflecting on my luck catching fish in my river, I decided that I should not count on finding a tuna fish. What I'll do is take enough potatoes to eat for the whole day. I'll also plan on eating the potatoes before I get to the salt pond so I can bring back all the salt that I can carry. On my trip out to the salt pond, I had carried along 2 days' worth of potatoes. When I came back, I was still carrying the 2 days' worth of potatoes, and I had 2 days' worth of salt. That was a pretty heavy load, but I was still able to do it. It seemed to me that potatoes were about twice as heavy as salt. So if I didn't have any potatoes to carry back, I should be able to bring back at least 6 days' worth of salt, maybe 7. Now that I have 2 reliable sources of food, I need to revisit my 10-year retirement planning to make sure that I understand how to both dig potatoes and fish and save enough of both to reach my retirement goals. It was time to get out the spreadsheet again. The first thing that I did was to review what I had determined when I originally analyzed my potato digging efforts. By digging potatoes 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, I was able to save potatoes at the rate of 20 potatoes per day, or 7,300 potatoes a year. Unfortunately, half of the potatoes in the potato cellar at any time would go bad every year. So even after 10 years of all this hard work, I only ended up with about 7,300 potatoes in the potato cellar. These were the potatoes that were supposed to feed me during my 10 years of retirement. Unfortunately, during my first year of retirement, half of those potatoes would go bad, and I only had about 3,650 potatoes available to eat. Since I needed to eat 10 potatoes each day to stay healthy and to stay happy, the potatoes that were in my potato cellar during my first year of retirement were only enough for me to eat for 1 year. After 1 year of being retired, there were no more potatoes from all my hard work. Next, I decided to analyze my fishing experiences. I decided to first analyze my fishing success on the assumption that I fished every day, 7 days a week for 10 years. So far, I have been able to catch fish at the rate of 30 fish per day. But a fish catching trip has consumed almost the entire day, so I would not have any time to dig and eat potatoes on the days that I went fishing. Accordingly, I would eat 10 of the fish that I caught, remembering that 1 fish is equal to 1 potato as far as food value is concerned. And I would be able to salt and preserve 20 fish each day that I went fishing. It then occurred to me that I couldn't salt my fish unless I had salt. Based upon my limited experience getting salt, I estimate that I could gather 6 days worth of salt in a 1-day trip to my salt pond. So, even if the only thing I did was fish for food, I could only fish 6 days a week and not 7. I would have to spend 1 day a week getting salt to preserve the fish. Accordingly, I will base my fishing analysis on catching and salting fish 8 hours a day for 6 days a week. And gathering salt will take me 8 hours a day, but only 1 day per week. I will point out that my fishing trips have indicated that it takes me about 3 hours to catch 30 fish. Plus, it takes me 4 hours to travel to and from my river. However, I will assume that it will take me about 1 hour each day to salt the fish. The first thing I need to do is figure out how many fish I can catch and salt away each year. To figure this out, I can salt and catch 20 fish each day times 6 days a week times 52 weeks per year. That means I can salt and fish 6,240 fish per year. Now that I know this number, I'll just drag that out for the 10 years that I need to analyze. Next, I need to take into consideration the number of salted fish that go bad in my potato cellar. So far, I'm assuming that the fish do not go bad at all. This may be risky, but I need to make this assumption for the time being because I do not have any experience with salted fish going bad over time. So we'll set the value here to 0, and then I'll drag that out for the 10 years that I'm going to analyze. Next, I need to figure out how many preserved fish will be in the potato cellar at the end of each year. Now for the first year, that number is going to be equal to the number that I caught in preserved. Now for the second year, the number in the potato cellar is going to be equal to the number at the end of the first year plus the number caught during the year. Since that will be the case for the entire 10 years of this analysis, I'll just drag this formula out and let it go. So, after 10 years of catching fish and preserving them, I should have 62,400 fish in the potato cellar that I should be able to eat for my retirement years. Now my initial planning has been to be able to retire and have 10 years worth of food. So 10 years worth of food equals 365 days a year, times 10 fish per day, because one fish is the same as one potato. And I've determined that I need 10 potatoes or 10 fish every day to keep me healthy and to keep me happy. And then, if I need this to last for 10 years, I will need 36,500 fish to let me survive comfortably for 10 years of retirement. Now, after 10 years of catching and salting and preserving fish, I should have 62,400. So that means that if I divide 62,400 by the number that I need, I should have more than 10 years worth of fish. I can take this one of two ways. Either I can expect to have enough fish to live in retirement for maybe 17 years, or I can afford to have some of my fish go bad during the 10 years. Now, I'm a pretty conservative guy and I don't need to stay retired for more than 10 years based upon my current estimates. So I'm going to assume that some of my salted fish will go bad. I'm going to assume that 10% of the salted fish in the potato cellar go bad every year. So for the first year, the number that go bad will equal the number that are salted times 10% or 0.1. And I'm going to indicate the ones that go bad with a negative number. So we're going to make that minus 0.1. The number of fish that go bad in the second year will be equal to the number of fish in the potato cellar at the end of the first year, plus the number of fish salted in the current year. Times minus 0.1. To calculate the salted fish that go bad in subsequent years, we'll just drag the formula for the second year out further. This gives me some interesting results. After 10 years of salting fish, I should have 36,578 fish in the potato cellar. If I was going to eat 10 fish a day for 10 years, I would need 36,500 fish. So it looks like I'll have maybe 78 extra fish. However, if I retire in the 11th year and stay retired for a total of 10 years, I need to allow for additional salted fish going bad. So at this point, I'm not sure how long my salted fish are going to last in my retirement. So I decided to extend my analysis for year 11 through year 20. For years 11 through 20, I'll be retired. So I will not be salting any more fish. If I don't eat any salted fish, I start the year with these many fish. This is the number I lose if I lose 10% of them. And this is the number of salted fish left over at the end of the 11th year, or my first year of retirement. So for each of the 10 years I'm retired, these are the number of salted fish that go bad each year. And these are the number of salted fish left over at the end of each year. Again, assuming that I do not eat any of the salted fish. However, I need to factor in the number of salted fish that I will eat each year during my 10 years of retirement. Now, the number of fish that I eat is 10 fish per day, times 365 days per year, or 3,650 salted fish each year. Now I can figure out how many fish are left over after I eat my year's worth of fish. To do this, I'm going to have to recompute the number of fish that go bad each year. The numbers that I estimated here were based on the assumption that I did not eat any of the fish during the year. But of course, that's not going to happen. I'm going to have to eat 3,650 fish each year of my retirement. The number of fish that go bad each year will actually be slightly less than these numbers. And that's because the number left over each year will be smaller by the amount that I eat. When figuring this out, and to be conservative, we'll assume that the fish that go bad during any given retirement year will still be equal to 10% of the fish that were in the potato cellar at the beginning of the year. That number will be reduced each year by the number of fish I eat. Therefore, the fish left over at the end of year 11 will be equal to the fish at the beginning of the year, plus a loss of 10% of those fish, which in this case is this number because we haven't eaten any yet, plus the number that we eat. The number of fish left over at the end of year 12 will be equal to the number at the start of the year, minus 10%, or 90% of what we started with, plus the number of fish that we ate, which was a negative 36.50. To figure the leftover fish at the end of year 13, or the third year of retirement, we'll just drag this formula over. For year 14, we'll do the same thing. Year 15 will do the same thing. Year 16 will do the same thing. Year 17 will do the same thing. Note that the number of fish left over at the end of year 17 is a negative value. That means that we did not have enough fish at the end of the 6th year of retirement to feed me for my 7th year of retirement. Specifically, the number of fish that were available to actually eat in my 7th year of retirement is equal to the number at the beginning times 90%, or 2,103 fish. Now I need to eat 3,650 fish each year, or 10 fish per day. So, after 10 years of catching and salting fish, followed by 6 full years of retirement and eating salted fish, I'll only have enough leftover fish to get me partially through my 7th retirement year. Specifically, I'll only have enough fish for 2103 divided by 3650, or 6/10 of a year, which is the same as 6.9 months. This analysis was extremely shocking and very sobering. It's now clear to me that I cannot achieve my retirement goals by salting and preserving fish in my potato cellar the way I had imagined. Preserving 20 fish a day, 6 days a week for 10 years just is not going to be enough. I decided to redo my fish analysis. I have been assuming that I salted and preserved 20 fish per day, 6 days a week. But I was catching 30 fish a day, 6 days a week, and eating 10 of them. What would happen if I preserved all 30 fish each day, assuming that I had enough salt to do this? To change this analysis, we'll change the fish caught in salted formula. And basically, the current formula was 20 fish a day, times 6 days a week, times 52 weeks a year. If I want to make this 30, I can just change this to 30. And now I'm salting and saving 9,360 fish per year. Let's drag this value all the way out for the 10 years that I was planning to catch and salt fish. Salting and preserving 9,360 fish every year. Change the leftover values accordingly. This time, I won't run out of salted fish to eat until my 9th year of retirement. This is better than running out in the 7th year, but still does not let me achieve my goals. Becoming increasingly more frustrated, I decided to see what would happen. If I doubled the amount of fish that I originally was going to put away from what was 20, we're going to make it now 40. Drag that out. Again, my leftover fish numbers are changed accordingly. But this time, I actually have enough fish to get me completely through my 10th year of retirement. In fact, I'll have 1,735 fish left over. This new analysis has convinced me that I can achieve my retirement goals. By salting and preserving 40 fish each day, 6 days a week for 10 years. The next thing I need to do is to figure out if I can catch the 40 fish each day that I can preserve. In my original assumption, I would take 8 hours a day to catch 30 fish and to preserve 20 of them. In my second analysis, I would have had to preserve 40, which means I would have had to catch 50 in the 10 hours of daylight that are available to me. This should be possible because in the 8 hours that it took me to catch 30 and preserve 20, 4 hours of that was spent walking to and from my river. 1 hour was spent salting the fish. So I was catching 30 fish in 3 hours or 10 fish per hour. So if it takes me 4 hours to walk to the river and back, plus 5 hours to catch 50 fish, plus 1 hour to preserve 40 fish, I should be able to catch 50 fish and preserve 40 in 10 hours. 4 hours for the round-trip walk, 5 hours to catch 50 fish, and 1 hour to salt 40.